The harmonic abduction. Mars Colony 7 was alive with the hum of progress. The maintenance bay echoed with metallic rhythms, punctuated by the steady hiss of pressurized gases and the occasional mechanical clank. Kira Voss, grease-slicked and laser-focused, worked beneath the belly of the cargo hauler Meridian. At 28, she had already earned a reputation as one of the best starship engineers in the outer colonies. Not because of degrees or accolades, though she had both, but because she treated ships like living things. "Easy now, girl," she whispered, her fingers coaxing a stubborn conduit into place. "Just you and me again." The Meridian rumbled beneath her, its systems responding with a soft pulse of acknowledgement. Kira smiled, her short auburn hair tied back in a messy braid, goggles smudged from hours of work. She dropped her plasma wrench and reached for another tool from her belt. Then everything changed. The hum of the station shifted, the tone rising into a higher frequency that made Kira's skin crawl. Every light flickered, then died. Emergency lighting snapped on, bathing the bay in eerie red. The silence that followed wasn't just an absence of sound, it was oppressive, as though sound itself had been stolen. She tapped her communicator. Dead. Its screen remained black. And then came the vibration. A deep harmonic thrumming that seemed to rise from the floor, from the walls, from within her bones. Kira stood slowly, eyes scanning the maintenance bay. Then the wall in front of her ceased to exist. Not shattered. Not melted. It simply stopped being. In its place stood a corridor that had not been there a moment ago. The walls shimmered with a pearlescent sheen, colors shifting like oil on water. The air that flowed out smelled faintly of ozone and something floral, yet unidentifiable. 3 figures emerged. Tall. Elegant. Not human. Their skin glowed with a subtle silver luminescence, and their eyes were wide, copper-colored, and impossibly deep. Their clothing looked grown, not stitched, forming to their bodies like metallic vines. One stepped forward. "Engineer Kira Voss of the Human Colony Confederation," he said, his voice harmonic, resonating in her chest. "I am Thane of the Valari Consortium. You will come with us." It wasn't a request. Kira reached instinctively for her plasma cutter, but her arm froze halfway. Not from fear, though fear coursed through her, but because his gaze held her in place. It wasn't hostile. It was ancient. Tired. Heavy with sorrow. "Come with you where?" she demanded, proud her voice stayed steady. "To save both our peoples," Thane replied. His companions remained silent, their copper eyes watching her like living statues. One of them raised a crystalline object. It looked like starlight trapped in quartz. Kira tried to step back. "Wait," she said. "I haven't agreed to any." "Forgiveness will have to suffice where permission was not sought," Thane said gently. "The need is too great." Reality blurred. Light folded into color and motion, and Kira's voice was swallowed by a rushing wind that came from nowhere. She blacked out. When she woke, Kira was standing. Somehow. She stood in a chamber that defied logic. The walls curled back on themselves, folding in impossible geometries that made her stomach twist. Surfaces flickered between states of matter, and the very air shimmered with strands of living light. Thane stood behind her. "This is the vessel," he said. "Built by the architects before the first stars cooled. A 7-dimensional starship. We call it the Ilarion." Kira turned. His silver skin reflected the ship's internal glow. "Why me? Why a human? Why me specifically?" He walked to a crystalline console that rose from the floor like a blooming flower. "Observe." He touched it. Light flared, then died. "Our minds are too structured. Too refined," Thane explained. "The Ilarion requires something more, chaotic. Emotional. Contradictory. We have lost that capacity. You have not." Kira raised an eyebrow. So you kidnapped me to be your chaos engine? Yes. And more. Her curiosity ignited. She approached the console. It pulsed beneath her touch, warm and aware. And then it happened. Her mind exploded with sensation. Not pain. Not exactly. But information poured in, too much to process, cascading through her neurons like a quantum torrent. She was inside the ship. She was the ship. Neural pathways lit up in her mind. Systems beyond comprehension opened to her touch. And beneath it all, a strange longing. The ship was lonely. It missed connection. It wanted to be understood. She staggered back. It's alive. Not just intelligent. Emotional. Yes, Thane said. Kira turned to him. How do I pilot it? With more than logic. The Alarian is guided by resonance. By emotion. By balance. Your people are uniquely capable of that. That's horrifying, she muttered. And kind of beautiful. Thane's expression softened. Will you help us? Kira looked around. The ship shimmered in response to her thoughts, shifting subtly to accommodate her attention. It wasn't just waiting. It was listening. I'll try. Thane stepped closer, then take your place. As she approached the command console again, Kira felt the ship hum in anticipation. This time, when her hands touched the crystalline surface, she let go of fear and embraced the chaos. And the Alarian flew. Space twisted, dimensions folded, and the universe peeled back to reveal what lay beyond. Kira Voss screamed, not in terror, but in awe. And Thane stood beside her, whispering, now, we begin. Echoes of self. 3 days passed, though time aboard the Alarian was a fluid thing, bending and folding like the space they moved through. Kira spent most of that time half-merged with the ship, learning its rhythms, its instincts, its moods. Thane remained close, guiding when necessary, silent when words would break concentration. On the third rotation of what the ship considered a day, she began seeing herself. It started in the reflections. First, in the crystal console, a glimpse of another Kira with a jagged scar down her face and eyes full of bitterness. The reflection moved even when she stood still. I just saw myself, Kira whispered, but not me. A version of me. Thane nodded, unsurprised. They were seated in what passed for the Alarian's resting chamber, a space that had reshaped itself into something between a velvet garden and a glowing cave. Temporal echoes, Thane explained. The result of your consciousness operating across multiple dimensions. You are becoming aware of possibilities. Of choices not made. Kira curled up on the pliant, softly luminous cushions, rubbing her temples. Great. So now I'm hallucinating alternate versions of myself. Not hallucinating, Thane corrected. Witnessing. Every decision you make creates ripples. The Alarian exists partially outside of linear time. It lets you see what might have been. What still could be. As if summoned, the wall beside them shimmered. Another Kira appeared. She was older, with silver in her hair and a gaze that held deep sorrow. She looked at Thane with raw longing, touched her fingers to his face, and then faded. Kira stared. What was that? In that timeline, we never said what needed to be said. Not until it was too late. She turned to him. And in others? In some, we never meet. In others, we are enemies. And in one. He paused, his copper eyes softening, we become something more. Bonded in ways neither of us yet understands. The next day, the echoes grew stronger. Some appeared in flashes, her reflection in the floor, a voice calling out in a language she almost recognized. One Kira wore ceremonial robes of the Valari. Another was feral, covered in grime, eyes wide with madness. It's like watching every road not taken, Kira murmured as they stood in front of a viewport showing the kaleidoscopic folds of space. More than watching, Thane said. The Alarian's dimensional barriers are weakening. The echoes are starting to bleed into this reality. No sooner had he said it than a form materialized before them. Another Thane. Older, scarred, dressed in battle-scarred armor. Don't trust her, he said sharply, pointing at Kira. She destroys everything she touches. I've seen the timelines. She brings ruin. Thane moved protectively between them. Enough. You are not this timeline. You do not speak for us. The echo dissipated, but his words lingered in the air like smoke. Kira walked away from the control console and sat at the edge of the glowing platform, her legs dangling into a void that wasn't quite space. What if he's right? What if all this ship, you, everything, would be better off without me? Thane knelt before her. The echoes show us possibilities, not certainties. You are not bound to their mistakes. But how do I know this is real, she whispered. How do I know we're not just another echo to someone else? He didn't answer with words. He kissed her. In the moment their lips touched, the echoes fell silent. The ship quieted, its pulses smoothing into a harmonic hum. The chaotic shimmer of reality stabilized around them, as if the universe itself acknowledged their choice. When they parted, Kira gasped slightly, dazed. What was that? A declaration, Thane replied. We chose this. In this reality, right now, we chose each other. She leaned into him, resting her head on his shoulder. There are still other versions of us. Ones that failed. Ones that never even tried. And they are not us. We are not them. This is our timeline. She closed her eyes. His warmth was real. The soft beat of the ship around them was real. And for the first time since stepping into the impossible corridor on Mars Colony 7, Kira felt steady. Then let's write our own outcome, she whispered. As the Alarian pulsed in time with her heartbeat, and Thane's hand found hers, she knew the echoes would never vanish entirely. But they no longer ruled her. Not now. Shadows between. The Alarian glided silently through folded dimensions, the great vessel now stabilized by Kira and Thane's harmonized emotions. The ship's walls glowed with muted colors, pulsing gently in rhythm with their shared neural link. Kira had grown more attuned to its systems, understanding how it sang back to her thoughts, her instincts. But something was wrong. On the sixth day, while navigating through an unusually dense strand of interdimensional filament, Kira froze mid-connection. Do you feel that? She whispered, her hand still pressed against the console. Thane turned toward her, sensing the shift in vibration. The Alarian began to hum off-key. Discordant. Like a song suddenly interrupted. Kira staggered back from the console, clutching her head. Her mind was flooded with a sensation so vast, so alien, it nearly drove her to her knees. She screamed, collapsing, her consciousness ripped momentarily across layers of reality. Thane was beside her instantly, lifting her into his arms as the ship's walls flickered between dimensions. Kira. Stay with me. What did you see? Something watching. Something vast. Hungry, she gasped, her voice trembling. It touched my mind. Just for a second. Thane, it saw me. Alarm harmonics surged through the ship. Warning glyphs flashed in languages the Valari hadn't spoken in thousands of years. Thane's expression darkened. No, they were sealed away. Long before our time. What was sealed away? He didn't answer immediately. He guided her to the ship's neural alcove and initiated a security fold. Shimmering barriers cascaded into place, shielding them from external interference. We call them devourers, he said finally. Beings that exist in the voids between dimensions. Pure hunger. They consume possibility itself. They are older than stars, older than time. Our ancestors fought them and barely managed to imprison them by collapsing timelines. Kira sat, pale and shaken, we woke them, didn't we? Our jumps, the folding, we weakened the walls. Thane nodded, the ship's movement across realities disturbed the seals. You felt one of them. They know we're here now. The Alarian lurched. Not physically. Something deeper. Reality itself rippled. Warning glyphs turned crimson. They're coming, Kira said. What do we do? We can't fight that. We run, Thane replied. And we hide. Kira returned to the console. Her hands trembled, but she found the song. She found the pulse. Thane linked with her, their emotions blending. Courage, fear, trust. Love. The ship folded. But it wasn't enough. The Devourer followed. Its presence slammed into them across all dimensions at once. The Alarian screamed. Its crystalline walls darkened. Light shattered into streams of broken code. Kira clung to her identity as something alien brushed her thoughts again. This time, she saw its form. It had no shape and every shape. A writhing mass of shadow and teeth that existed on 7 planes simultaneously. It radiated cold, hunger, silence. Thane. It's breaking through, Kira cried. He gritted his teeth, his mental voice strained. Hold the fold. If we drop into real space, we die. But the Devourer had latched onto them, dragging at their trajectory. Space folded back in the wrong direction. Kira fought to harmonize. The ship responded to her fear with panic, its paths flickering uncontrollably. Sing with me, she whispered, sweat running down her temple. Trust me. We can do this. Thane joined her in the resonance. Their minds intertwined fully, deeper than before. Memories flowed between them. His first time holding a newborn sister. Her days working alone in isolation. Dreams. Regrets. Hopes. Together, they poured it into the ship. Emotion became code. Love became guidance. And the Alarian responded. The fold stabilized. Light returned. The Devourer shrieked as the path ahead narrowed. Kira pushed the ship harder than ever before, burning energy like wildfire. Dimensions collapsed behind them. Then, release. The Devourer lost its grip. They burst into a pocket dimension shielded in temporal stasis. Silence fell. Kira slumped in the pilot cradle, panting, her skin pale, body trembling. Thane knelt beside her, touching her forehead. You did it. You saved us. No, she whispered. We did. But that was just one. Thane, there are more. I felt them. Thousands. Waking. Moving. He closed his eyes, pain and fear twisting his features. Then we are out of time. The old seals are breaking. Soon, none of the timelines will be safe. Kira sat up slowly, then we seal them again. Stronger. Smarter. With what we've learned. We use the ship's emotional field. If the Devourers consume potential, we give them nothing but unity. Harmony. They feed on contradiction. Fractured paths. Doubt. She nodded, then we show them a mind made whole. Piloting the impossible. The silence after the Devourer attack was not peace. It was the tension between heartbeats, the deep breath before a scream. The Alarian floated in a sealed pocket of temporal stillness, safely hidden, for now. The crew had survived their brush with extinction. But the cost was still coming into focus. Kira sat cross-legged at the heart of the ship's navigation chamber, her hands resting on the crystalline floor. Her skin glowed faintly with the ship's reflected energy. She hadn't spoken in hours, not since they'd sealed themselves away. Not since she'd burned through her own mind to wrench them from the Devourer's grip. Thane sat beside her, silent but watchful. His fingers occasionally twitched, reaching as if to comfort her, but never quite touching. He respected her space. He always had. Finally, Kira spoke. It's not enough to run. They'll follow. Eventually, they'll find this place too. I know, he said softly. We need a new plan. Something beyond running. She turned toward him. Her eyes shimmered with a strange light. We use the Alarian differently. It's not just a ship. It's a conduit. A frequency. If we can resonate through the emotional layers of folded space, we might be able to reinforce the dimensional walls. Reseal the devourers. You think we can create a harmonic seal? Thane asked, frowning. We would need unprecedented alignment. Mental and emotional fusion across every node of the ship. That has never been attempted. Never, Kira echoed, but we're going to do it. You and me. He studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Tell me what to do. Preparation took the equivalent of 2 human days. Kira configured the Alarian's core nodes to interface not just with her, but with Thane as well. It was a dangerous configuration. Dual pilot harmonics meant that any mental break between them could cause a collapse of stability, sending the ship into catastrophic decoherence. We share everything, Kira explained, her voice trembling slightly. Thoughts, emotions, instincts. Total exposure. We can't hide anything from each other in this state. Then we hide nothing, Thane said. He placed his hand over hers. Their minds touched. The neural harmonization began. Their minds intertwined like twin strands of DNA. Kira felt his childhood memories, the taste of the sea wind on Valari shores, the grief of watching his planet star dim. He felt her years in isolation, her ache to be understood, her deep joy in creation. The Alarian sang. Its walls changed color with each shared heartbeat. Systems aligned with perfect synchronicity. Dimensional anchors hummed as Kira and Thane reached into the fabric of space. We're ready, she said. Then let us begin. The Devourers sensed them immediately. They folded into fractured space, riding on echoes of hunger. Massive shadows of emptiness drifted into the edge of the pocket dimension. The Alarian surged forward, not fleeing this time, but guiding. Kira and Thane pulsed emotional harmonics into the dimensional threads. Sorrow. Hope. Love. Joy. Rage. Forgiveness. Each emotion was a note in a complex song the ship wove across timelines. As the Devourers approached, their hunger faltered. The song disoriented them. Emotional resonance flooded them with patterns they could not digest. They twisted and writhed, seeking unstructured potential, but Kira gave them unity. Her mind locked into Thane's, a perfect contradiction, order and chaos, human and Valari. The Alarian reached critical resonance. Realities folded around them, collapsing and rebuilding like waves in a superposition. The Devourers screamed across all frequencies, clawing at the sealed fold. Kira poured more of herself into the ship. Thane steadied her, gave her his strength, let her draw from his core. Their bodies trembled. Their thoughts merged. Now, she whispered. Seal them. Thane focused. Together, they spun the harmonics into a dimensional lock. Emotional frequencies crystallized. The Devourer's forms fragmented, sucked into a rift lined with reflective resonance. Then it was done. Silence fell. The Devourers were gone. Kira collapsed against Thane, her strength spent. He caught her, gently lowering them both to the floor. You did it, he murmured. She smiled weakly. We did it. Later, they sat beneath the central atrium, watching the stars realign themselves. The Alarian purred contentedly. We've stabilized the breach, Kira said. But we didn't destroy them. We just pushed them deeper into the void. If the harmony breaks again, then we sing again, Thane replied. We protect what we can. And we stay connected. Kira leaned against him. The ship recognizes us now. Not just as pilots. As partners. Emotional anchors. It was always meant to be flown by more than intellect. It was meant for bond. For trust. For love, he said quietly. She met his eyes. We still have one final fold. One destination left. Home. Kira shook her head. A new one. For both of us. And together, they laid in the heart of the ship, wrapped in each other, as the Alarian prepared to fly again. A song for all timelines. The Alarian glided through the edge of known reality, now tuned to the emotional resonance of two souls who had chosen to stand together. Kira and Thane had reshaped the ship, each other, and the path of countless futures. But their journey wasn't over. Not yet. There's a signal, Kira said, her voice low. Something broadcasting from a point outside the observable dimensions. Thane stepped beside her at the console, his expression grave. Coordinates? Not fixed. They're fluid. But they align with something old. Older than the Devourers. Older than your records. A source? Or a beginning, Kira said. The ship pulsed around them, responding to their curiosity, their shared determination. The coordinates formed. The song began. Folding toward the signal felt different. This wasn't a jump driven by fear or necessity. It was guided by intention, curiosity, a yearning to understand. As they passed through the folds, echoes reappeared, but not chaotic. Not fractured. Instead, they saw harmony. Other Kiras and Thanes. Other pairs, from alternate timelines. Some as mentors, some as guardians. Some cradling children. Others standing over galaxies reborn. We're not the only ones, Kira whispered. In every timeline where we trust each other, where we choose unity, the Devourers fail. Thane reached for her hand, and the Alarian brought them forward, unfolding space like a petal opening to light. They arrived. Before them stretched a space untouched by entropy. Stars newly born, galaxies like spirals of hope, a region of pure potential. And at its heart, a construct. Not a station. Not a ship. A choir. Beings of every kind, every origin, arranged in harmonic patterns, their thoughts forming chords that sustained the stability of the void. The original seal. The first guardians of dimensional balance. They welcomed Kira and Thane not with words, but with resonance. Memories, truths, possibilities passed between them in bursts of harmonic clarity. The choir showed them what had come before, the original sealing, the failure of pride, the cost of disconnection. The Devourers had emerged from imbalance, from fractured emotion and misused potential. And now the Alarian, its pilots bound in mutual trust, was the key to a new harmony. They want us to stay, Thane said. Kira nodded. Not just as observers. As anchors. Harmonics bound to this place. To hold the balance. Can we do that? Together, she said, yes. They stepped into the center of the choir's array. The Alarian resonated with the structure, its systems merging with the ancient mechanisms of the seal. Kira and Thane reached out with their minds, their feelings, their memories, offering all of it. The fear, the pain, the hope, the love. The choir accepted. The final resonance began. A song not of war, but of remembrance. Not of destruction, but of balance. One by one, the rifts closed. The Devourers felt it. The emotional harmony made them falter, then shatter. Without contradiction to feed on, they dissolved into the unified frequency. The timeline stabilized. Echoes settled. And across the galaxy, stars stopped flickering. Years passed. Within the choir, Kira and Thane remained. Not as prisoners, not as sacrifices, but as beacons. Their bond became a touchstone across dimensions. The Ilarion, once a mystery of the architects, now hummed with living purpose. In some timelines, people spoke of the human and the Valari who stopped the end. In others, they were myths. Songs. But in all, their choice mattered. In the heart of the harmonic field, Kira sat with Thane, their hands still entwined. "Do you think they'll remember us?" she asked. "They won't need to," he said. "They'll feel it. In every act of trust. Every step taken in unity." Kira smiled. "Then we did it. We did." The Ilarion pulsed gently around them. The song of all timelines continued. And the two who had once been strangers stood eternal, guardians of reality, bound not by fate, but by choice. The end.